Welcome to Humble Beginnings, a podcast where we uncover the unconventional, more relatable paths to success. In this show, we'll share the stories before the C-suites, board memberships, and appointments, the stories of various upbringings, first jobs, career pivots, educational uncertainties, and more. This is the place to hear about their lives from the GovCon executives themselves. We hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Humble Beginnings. I'm your host, Amanda Ziadeh, and our guest today is JR Williamson, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at Leidos. Thank you for joining me today, JR.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, JR, as we do with our Humble Beginnings episodes, we love to start with your background, learn a little bit about you and the way that you grew up. So I understand that you had a unique and at times challenging upbringing. You grew up mostly in Northern Virginia, but would move 21 or so times by the time you were 15, which of course had to do much with your family dynamic. So do you mind sharing a bit of that story of your upbringing with us?
Well, sure. And again, thanks for having me on. A couple of things I would say. One is that, I'm like a native Northern Virginian. I think there's like 5 of us. It's a very transient community. A lot of people come in and out. It's great because you meet people all the time. It's like, I lived here or I lived there. I was in DC for 5 years or whatever, and then there's someplace else. So it's great when you're out traveling around meeting people. You can almost always find somebody who spent some time in the DC area. For me, it's just my whole time, except when I was born. I was born in Beaufort, South Carolina. My father was a Marine, so we were stationed there at Parris Island, and so I was born there, and I was there briefly. Then we moved to NAS Oceana in the Norfolk area, and so we stayed there for a little bit, and then came up to Northern Virginia. So I've been up here for the vast majority of my life, and I would say that we moved around a great deal. I think a lot of people have had similar journeys in their lives. I don't think I'm unique in that regard, but it does give you a perspective when you grow up under those conditions. We struggled a little bit, financially in certain parts of our lives. I think that's just sort of the nature of it. And as a result, you learn a lot of things. You get a lot of great stories. You meet a lot of people. You learn a lot of things as you go. So nothing I regret. I'm sort of the sum of my experiences, and I'm very happy about that. But it is one of those things where even though in Northern Virginia there's a great deal of money in some portions, and a lot of people have opportunity that comes from that, that wasn't our story. We were not in that case. There were sort of 3 original Williamsons, and then my mother remarried and had another child, so I have a half brother. And of the 4 of us, only 2 of us managed to get through high school. And I was the only one to go on to get a college education, and much less an advanced degree. So, I feel very special and lucky to have that opportunity. Everybody's done well, in their lives, and got to have their own families and raise their families. So no regrets about any of that.
Awesome. Well, JR, like you mentioned, sometimes it is our hard experiences and challenges that kind of bring us together. And a lot of people do face adversities growing up. Were there any in your life as a child that you can recall that kind of changed your perspective specifically on things?
Well, I think one of the hardest is, my mom, who unfortunately, and we know moms are always the center of our universes. I mean, moms take care of us. They don't just birth us; they take care of us, and they help us become the people we are. Not that dads don't do that. And as a dad, I appreciate the opportunity to influence and to raise my kids. But I think we all know. We'll just be very honest. Mom's the heart. I mean, she's the center of these families, and it was the same with us. And my mom, unfortunately, ended up having, a bipolar disease. She was a manic depressive, so had just a chemical anomaly in her body. And unfortunately, we all had to sort of learn that with her. We also were raised very young. I mean, my mom had me when she was still a teenager. when she had me and my older brother, so she was even younger, for that experience. So she's kind of growing up and learning about herself and her life, and we're doing the same with her. So what was really cool about that, I should say, is that we grew up with all her music. So I know, I was born in '61, and so I know all the music from that time because that's what we were listening to and learning with her. And unfortunately, though, as she got a little bit older and got into her late 20s and 30s, the onset of this unfortunate condition really started to settle in. And that created a lot of disruption in the family because, her mental health, particularly with her being the core of our family, really, kind of settled in. And we all had to deal with that. So we grew up a lot quicker than we probably typically would have. We had to take care of ourselves a lot earlier. Mom's trying to work multiple jobs and take care of us. We had, divorce settled in, and those situations, where families become, very disruptive and distributed, and so we had to live through all of that and learn to depend on each other and to sort of just grow up a little bit quicker than perhaps we would otherwise wanted to. So definitely challenges, but you pull together as a team and you figure stuff out. We got help from the community. We got help from other families, which was awesome because we didn't have much money when you're under those conditions. Grandparents stepped in and tried to help out where they could too, but they were also not very well off. All sort of blue collar workers and keeping themselves afloat. But you sort of figure it out and you sort of toughen up a little bit from that. And when I think about that time, I mean, yes, a lot of change and a lot of movement, a lot of migration to just keep moving forward. But you learn resiliency. You learn that you can do stuff. Maybe you don't think you can, but you can, and that gives you confidence to take on new challenges. And I think all of us, who went through those times, experienced that and learned about how to survive. But eventually we mostly got mom the help that she needed. There were lapses, unfortunately. That, by the way, that's a difficult thing to do. For folks who are having to deal with family members with mental illness, it's a difficult thing. To see someone that you care about and you respect and you admire and look up to have those kinds of problems. And I remember for me having to actually commit my mom, having to go to court and having her put into a hospital was a difficult thing as a young man, and seeing her in that condition. But again, those things give you strength. They build competency, they build capability and commitment. And we certainly all got the benefit of that.
Absolutely. It's interesting because the older I get, the more I think about how when I'm a kid, my parents are, they've got it all figured out. They're good. They're parents,
Sure.
but they have their own life and experiences and struggles and they're people too, obviously. So
Right.
um,
And they don't want to be a burden. I mean, now being older in my life, with my kids, I don't want to be a burden to them. I want to be an enabler. I want to be a helper to launch them and to support them in their journey. And unfortunately, when you have a parent who needs help, it's harder. You become a caretaker, and honestly, that's not what they want. It's what they need, but it's not what they want. They raised you. They want to be the caretaker.
yeah, absolutely. That's challenging. And during, all of this going on at home, it must be hard for any child to focus on much else going on. How did you stay motivated in school and sports, socially, while you're also dealing with this back at home?
Yeah, so we were on our own a lot. And because we're on our own a lot, because mom's trying to work and she's trying to take care of us, and at one point, three jobs, just trying to make things come together, to keep all of us going. And then once you have a fourth child, I mean, imagine, a single parent with three children is already just crazy talk. But then, getting married again and having a fourth child, just makes things that much more challenging. But we had a lot of time to ourselves. So we were in the school system, public school system that generally worked. There were challenges, but there's always challenges in the school systems. But we got through all of that. But we did get to play sports, so sports was really important for us, particularly my older brother and I. And we got to play sports, quite frankly, on the backs of other families, because we didn't have the dollars to pay to play. But other folks sponsored us, and we got to play. And I was a pretty good athlete, and so I got to do a lot of things. And I think that really helped to sort of channel some of that focus away from the challenges at home into, hey, what can I do to contribute and be the best that I can here? School is a little bit like that, but school was never really that hard. When we think about schools today, we got all these advanced placement programs and all these ways to challenge kids. We had very little of that back in my day. There was a teeny bit of it, but not like it is today. And so really it was through sports more than pure play academics that we were able to really sort of focus our attention. And I think that was, quite frankly, a lifesaver, because that you build a friend community, you build a social network around your sports engagements, and you're also working on your body and you're working on your mind. So a great deal of lesson learned also came from being a lifelong athlete.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. You don't think often enough about how that social aspect and focusing on the fun of the sports and working on health and all that, when you're at that age, can really kind of help your mind when you're going through anything at home, especially when you're young, because
It
that's what you
really
have.
can. It really
Yeah.
can. And like everything in life, you try and you experiment, and some things you do well and other things you don't, and you learn from that. And people in sports, they give you feedback. It's like awesome or you suck. And so you sort of get that, and it helps to drive you or motivate you. If it doesn't break you, it helps to drive and motivate you to continue to grow and develop.
Absolutely. So what did you, want to be when you grew up, so to speak, during this time? What did you excel at academically and how did that kind of direct your path?
Yeah, so great question. So I think my original plan, I grew up in the Starsky and Hutch era. And so my original plan, and my stepfather was a police officer. My dad was a Marine. My stepfather was a police officer. So I just thought, man, wouldn't it be great to be a police officer? I think this would just be an awesome job. I'm out there helping people every day. That sounded like a great plan. And as I got a little bit older, I realized, well, that's a terrible plan. I mean, that's a really difficult job. A lot of people don't respect you, which is terrible. But it's a really tough job to do. And plus, I realized, seeing how my stepfather went through this, is that this is not a path to sort of economic independence either. It is definitely one of those jobs that you do because you have a heart for it, you have a love for it, you have a spirit to serve, all of which are fantastic, models that we want to have in our community. But having grown up so poor and dealing with the struggles that we had before, I just had this aspiration to exceed. To go a little further. And the rest of my family is a little bit different. As I mentioned, I was the only one that sort of had a little bit of drive. Maybe it's because I was switched at birth. Not completely sure, what was driving that outcome. But, at the end of the day, I wanted a little bit more. And I really wanted to sort of, to get to someplace else, other than perhaps a couple of these choices that might otherwise, be presented to me. And so I drove to that outcome. And so at the end of the day, I decided that I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to college. I put myself, into programs. So in high school, they had these things where they called it co-oping back then, where I would go to school for half a day, and then I would go work. And so I had a job. So I did that very early on. I started in high school. I got a little bit of an internship with IBM, doing some work with them. I branched out into McDonald's, and so in Montgomery Ward, which doesn't even exist anymore, but a department store. And I got the opportunity to start getting out into the community and having a job and earning some money. And so that was helpful. But I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed to go to school. And then, once I graduated from high school and all my friends go off to college, I'm sort of by myself. So it's like, now what do I do? Kind of thing. So I enrolled in Northern Virginia Community College, and so I'm working, as best I can, with a couple of different jobs, going to school, some part during the day, some at night. I then got the opportunity to get a job at Headquarters Marine Corps. And so I was full time there. I was working in the, believe it or not, the Marine Corps Sports Unit. And the Marine Corps Sports Unit was awesome because it gave me this opportunity to work with world class athletes who were Marines. And my job was to equip them, to be the best athlete that they can. So if they were going off into the Olympics, if they were going off into what we called, CISM, what was that? Conceal International Du Sport Militaire. I cannot believe I still remember that. That was so long ago. But think of that as like the Olympics from military games. So instead of, having track and field and those kind of stuff, you're like, grenade toss, who could throw the grenade the furthest and the most accurate, but a lot of combat like skills, judo and Greco-Roman wrestling and these kinds of things were all part of this. And it was like an international thing. It was really kind of cool. But I got the opportunity to do that. So it was my job to equip those folks, get them the logistics, get them the materials they need, so that they could go off and be, world-class athletes. And I got to do that for like 4 years. And while I was doing that, I was also going to school. And so now I'm going to night school. And it took me a long time. It took me 11 years to finish my undergraduate degree, but I was just very committed to doing that. And when I first started college, world's ocean, anything could happen, and what do you really want to study? And I thought I wanted to be a geologist. Because I was fascinated with science. I was fascinated with the planet, why it worked, how it worked. And so I started down this path of geology and really, really loved it. And then realized I'm going to be poor again. Because you're fighting for grant money. I want to be like a volcanist. Who doesn't want to understand how volcanoes work and plate tectonics and transform faulting? This is cool stuff. But I'm going to be poor again. And so at the end of the day, I said, okay, not a good plan. I love this. This is a great hobby to learn about this. But at the end of the day, I really need to pick a career that I can actually have a career in. And so we didn't call it IT back then. We called it Information Resources Management. And so I got involved in that. And I always had an affinity for computers. Back in high school, we had this thing called an IBM 402 accounting machine, and so this is where we did attendance and roles, and I was asked, I can't tell you why, but somebody just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, JR, can you help us out here? You seem to know stuff." And so I got involved as a junior in high school, and I learned how to manage the system and how to maintain the system. And so ultimately, I became the person who ran the attendance records, every day in the high school. It was so funny. Anytime the machine broke or something, you'd hear over the PA system, JR Williamson, please report to the office to fix them. And so I get to go and wire these boards up. And I learned how to read the Holowith code for the IBM card punch machines and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a neat thing. So I seem to have a little bit of an affinity for that I learned just in my high school time and with my little bit of internship with IBM. And so I picked that, as my career, and that got me involved in what today we think of as computer science and IT, and went on to advanced degree. So I'm undergraduate from George Mason, through that journey of Northern Virginia Community College to get started. I relocated down to South Carolina for a teeny bit, and went down there for a semester. Came back to George Mason, finished at George Mason, and then went on for my master's in computer science and the engineering school at Virginia Tech. So that was sort of my education journey, but I definitely have a passion, for this whole IT and technology space, just like I do for plate tectonics and what's going on in the physical world.
It's cool because, usually when you're in middle school, high school, no one expects you to actually know who you want to be, what you want to be, or even get the job that you wanted in high school. But there's always some kind of connection. Like you don't think about it till later, like, oh, I did work on that in high school. I guess I liked it. I was good at it.
Yes, it must have been a good thing, and I learned something. I still remember that today. I can actually still read the Holowith code today. So not that you can find a unit record card lying around, but if you did, you got all those hole punches. I can actually read those. I actually know how to do that. Talk about
That's
wasted brain
awesome.
cells.
No, I mean, it matters. Here you are today. You know, if you didn't do that, who knows? So, how did you start your professional career after you got your graduate degree? How'd that all land for you?
Well, so and along the way, so when I left headquarters Marine Corps, I got into an IT company. Actually, I lied. Before I did that, I worked for William H. Gordon Associates. So I worked for an engineering company. So they did civil engineering, and they needed an IT guy to come in and help with building some networks. So these are early days of networks, and they asked me to come in to help with that. I ran an old Novell NetWare system, for them, and I helped them build what today you would think of as CAD CAM systems, early Autodesk kind of functionality. And I had affinity for that. I was good at that, and I liked engineering in general, so I was a good fit for there. So I worked with them for about 2.5 years, and then got invited, through a friend to come join a company called PRC, Planning Research Corporation, an IT government contractor company, and I came in there as a manager, as a leader to run their infrastructure, so networks and PCs and servers and those kind of things, and that was really awesome because that was like I was still going to school, so I'm putting myself through school during this time, but that was awesome because it exposed me to a broader set of technology that I hadn't seen before, and a lot of R&D, which was pretty exciting too. And we were doing some really creative stuff. And this is back, in the early days of networking. We had a 9.6 kilobit per second connection, to IARPA. I mean, back then, so the internet is not even really a fully thing yet. We had NiserNet running out of New York. I screwed up one time because we were troubleshooting our connection, and I put a recursive ping in place to keep the link up, and I forgot that I had it up and running, and it ran over the weekend and jammed some things up. So I was not very popular come Monday morning. But those were the early days when we're really sort of building this stuff out that we have today. And one thing I'd share with you, Amanda, that sometimes our sort of early career folks today just they don't appreciate some of that history of what we were able to build. And today, I'm obviously very passionate about technology and cyber and everything we do in this space. But part of it is because I have a keen understanding as how this stuff works, because we built it from scratch. And even though we're inventing new things, year over year on top of this, it all comes down to the foundational building blocks of how two devices talk to each other over a network, and how software actually works. And I have just a very keen understanding of that, having the opportunity to be there sort of in the beginning as we were building this stuff. So it really has been a big enabler for my career.
That's very cool. And obviously working during college, it's a great way to get experience, internships, build up that resume, but this was also a means to pay for college too, right? That was
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, these companies, help me do that, and I know other people have done that too that I've met along my journey. Where, and we do that, here at Leidos. We did it in my days at Northrop, too, where we're, supporting people who are looking to develop themselves, and as long as you're, pursuing education that is relevant to what the company does, typically the company is going to support you in doing that. So you have to invest your time, talent, and treasure to do it, and you have to obviously get the job done too. But these companies help you do it, and I'm extremely appreciative, for the companies I've had the opportunity to work for to help me to continually grow.
Awesome. So how did you ultimately land at Leidos? I know that might be a story, but yeah, take us through that experience.
Yeah, so just thinking about that career progression, moving through the technology wickets, as an engineer and building networks and designing networks, and then managing people who are doing that and leading other engineers. We went through an acquisition phase, so PRC ultimately gets purchased. In fact, PRC got purchased by Black and Decker back in the the 90s, when everybody was diversifying their portfolios, and so that made sense to Black and Decker. It didn't make sense to us. We're a government contractor doing all this IT and systems enablement work, and Black and Decker, our power tool company, buys
Yeah,
us. But I got to tell you, twice a year, they would show up at our headquarters at PRC Drive in McLean, with 2 tractor trailers full of Black and Decker gear, and we would get it at like half price. And
that's
so it
cool.
was like awesome. It was like a party. So I had every Black and Decker tool you could imagine. So we liked that. That was a good thing. The rest of it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But eventually, that all sort of changed. Litton, purchased the company. Ultimately, the company gets purchased by Northrop Grumman. And through a combination of Northrop Grumman and TRW Systems, got purchased too, because I had just left. I did a quick stint over at Marriott for a couple of years, working for them on IT things. Came back to government contracting. Was over at TRW. TRW got purchased by Northrop Grumman. So all my friends, from my 10 years at PRC, and my 2 years over here at TRW, we're all back together in Northrop Grumman. And so, so that's sort of that career journey. And I got through a lot of things. I mean, I was 27 years in those combined companies, so almost 3
Wow.
decades. I got to be CTO. I got to be chief engineer. I got to do the CISO job. I got to be CIO. So I got to do all of these awesome jobs. And it's interesting, when you sort of grow up in IT, what's the one job you're imagining you're aspiring to? It's the CIO, right? Who doesn't
Hmm.
want to be the CIO? It's a top job, and I think for a good portion of my career, that was sort of my aspiration too. And then I got to do these other things, and Northrop was really good at that. They were good at rotating leaders into new roles, rounding out your skill set, and some of that was offered. Some of it was highly suggested, if you will, and so I got to do some of those. They're scary, to do when you really like something you're doing and feel like you're doing a good job of it. When somebody comes and taps you on the shoulder and says, we're going to go do something else, we're like, no, I like my job.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit scary, but it's good, and I'm glad I did that. And I encourage everybody to do that. Take a chance, take a risk. If you're not really sort of pressing yourself, if you're not feeling just a little bit uncomfortable, then you're probably not really challenging yourself. And so I did that. I chose to do those things. I rotated into a lot of jobs, and sort of like those early career challenges I had to deal with, where you gain in confidence because of these experiences, and you teach yourself through those experiences that you can do this. You can do this. I didn't think I could, but I can, and that has really helped me. So I very much appreciate and been very thankful of my time at Northrop to both encourage me, but also to give me the opportunity to go do these other things. And it's through those experiences, Amanda, that you ultimately figure out what you love the most. And all those jobs were great, but the one that I really enjoyed the most was a cyber mission. I felt like that job was the hardest job. It was the most technically challenging job. It was also a difficult thing because you're managing risk, and you have to be a governor. And to be an effective governor, you really need to understand the problem that you're trying to solve. And you need to understand, what the people who are using these tools and these technologies actually need. So that classic thing of hey, yeah, good news is it's really safe, but now it's not effective, and people can't actually do anything. And so they sort of hate you. And so having to learn how to balance those things, how to actually manage risk, not eliminate risk, was really cool and very exciting to me. And it helped to blend all those things. In fact, I would argue it's my bias because of my experiences that your best CISOs are the people who have got to do those other things. because if you haven't been a customer and you don't know what it is to be governed, then it's hard to be an effective governor. And to provide services and solutions that are safe, but are also performant. And of that, I love that job. And quite frankly, I could have still been at Northrop. I mean, I was having a fantastic career there, and could still be there, but I really wanted to get back to being a CISO, and to sort of finish my career, if you will, in that sort of domain. I never really wanted to be CEO of the company. I never really wanted to run a line of business. I got the opportunity to work on programs and contracts and be in the line, and I really enjoyed that, being really close to the mission, and to the customer. But I never really had that ambition. What I had an ambition for is to be the C-level person, in this sort of IT and technology, and cyberspace. And ultimately, I got an opportunity, sort of knock on the door from several folks, to consider leaving Northrop and getting back into the CISO job, and so I listened to those. Things were great at Northrop. There was no reason to sort of listen to those calls, but I wasn't able to get back there. There's only one person in the job. There's only one job called CISO, and so for you to get that opportunity, the person in there has to leave. And in my situation, as I was getting a little bit more deeply tenured, the person in the role, who was a fantastic individual, was also looking for his next step, but that hadn't quite happened yet. So he became a bit of a blocker for me. And then ultimately, I decided that I was retirement eligible. So I retired from Northrop Grumman. So I always value my time. I'll always be a Northrop Grumman person, but retired and then signed on to Leidos to help build out their cybersecurity program. That's how I got here. And I've been here now for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in September. It has been a fantastic journey. As an engineer, we like building things. We like designing and fixing and that kind of stuff. And I got the opportunity to come here and build the program that we have. And I'm just extremely proud of the team, and the work that we've done over the last 6 years. We have come a really long way, and now just have a really fantastic program here at Leidos that we're all very proud of.
Awesome. That's really cool. I know in our industry, in GovCon in particular, networking and forming relationships is a key factor in sometimes career progressions or even just moving around. So did you have any of those throughout your career that you kind of attribute to certain, parts of your journey?
I did, and through school you meet people and you build relationships, and I tell people all the time when I'm mentoring proteges that you really need sort of three things to be successful in your career, and by successful I really mean that sort of upward mobility. First of all, don't presume that you're climbing the corporate ladder in a vertical sense. As I've seen in my career, really maybe the best way to build strength, to build depth and breadth, and to grow your network is a spiral. So it's really sort of winding your way up to the top, because you're building a lot of experiences, and those experiences help you to be very successful. In the military, we have this concept of a general officer, and a general officer, literally, before you get that star on your shoulder, you're doing all these different things, because you can't be a general officer unless you have general knowledge. And to have that general knowledge, you got to go do all those things. And then that makes you much more effective when you get into that senior rank. And similarly, what I coach people on is don't just presume you're going to be in this sort of same vertical, for your entire life and your entire work career. You will find that your strength will come from having broader understanding, and to get out into those areas is a good thing. So I tell people the three things are, you have to be good at what you do. So you have to perform. If you are not performing, if you're not excellent and awesome at what you do, then you're probably not going to get noticed. So first and foremost, perform. Second thing is you need air cover. You need to build a network. You need to reach out in a sort of 360-degree manner and build relationships with people above you in the organization, your peers, people who work for you or with you, your supply chain. So it's inside and outside of the company. You need to build this network because this network is hugely important when you need to get something done. The bridge is already built. It's hard to build it when you need it. It's already there, and you can get the support that you need to get the success or get the outcome that you're looking for. And you definitely need to build advocacy above you in the organization, because when decisions are being made about what's next, it's not typically you or your peers who are deciding that. It's typically folks above you in the organization. So building those relationships, getting people to understand what your interests are, what you're willing to do, building advocacy, getting people to understand your capability and your competency and your potential is huge, because they're the ones who will then advocate for you. And then the third thing is luck, timing. Frequently you're interested in a role and it's not available. So what do you want to do? You can't quite get there from there. And sometimes this role that you're really interested comes up, but you're not quite ready. You haven't built the advocacy yet, or you haven't built all the competency or the experience necessary to really make you ready for that particular role. So it's three things. It's your performance, it's building your network, and it's kind of timing and luck. And of those three things, we can control one for sure, our own performance. And we can largely influence our relationships and building our networks out. And then luck is kind of luck. But if you do those two things, the luck starts to work for you a little bit better. And so I think that's how you do it. And I've been very lucky and very successful in doing that. I've also been engaged quite a bit in industry. So in addition to building relationships inside the company, and with those rotations and spiraling and understanding how the bigger pictures work and how these large interconnected enterprise business processes work, and to be able to help with those and solving, so those mass hard problems, building relationships outside the company is also really huge, because that's another source of information. It's another source of inspiration, and it's certainly another source of help. And that also kind of helps you get your ear to the ground about opportunities. And one thing's for me too is, as I've been fortunate to be pulled into forums across industries to actually help and to build, writing white papers, writing books. I'm a co-author of 5 different books, and so I've had the opportunity to work on national security policy, for our government, and then parlay that into other countries' governments. And so those things really give you opportunities to drive more perspective, but also to contribute, sort of give back, into the community and to support the community that you're in. And so that's been very valuable in my career. Builds out your network, builds broader advocacy, but also gives you an opportunity to contribute, quite frankly, to a community that has helped me be very successful. I mean, honestly, I've gotten so much further than I ever should have in my career, certainly given some of my beginnings and my opportunities. And so to make it here, way beyond what I ever deserved. And I largely, relied on and am thankful for the community that's helped me achieve that.
Awesome. And how about your personal life? Anything outside of work in terms of family or adult experiences that have also kind of shaped who you are today?
Sure, friends and family for sure. And so, just like, all moms, my wife's the center of our universe. And so she takes care of all of us. So she's my partner. She's my best friend. And, she's the one that helps enable me to do the things that I get to do. When your life and your family is strong and solid, you can do anything. It's your home base. It's that safe space, and from there you're able to sort of launch and to try and to create, because the worst possible failure I could have out there can all be solved back here. When you have your family and your family is supportive of you. So, my family has been ginormously important and central, to the career ambitions I've had and to the successes I've had. I've also had the opportunity to pay forward, as an athlete, growing up and playing sports. I'm a coach, so I'm a nationally licensed soccer coach. I carry a C license, and so I've been coaching adults and youth for, over 40 years. So four decades
Wow.
doing that. I'm a soccer referee and a referee mentor and instructor. I've been doing that for 26 years. So that's a way of developing and giving back into the sports community. And I actually serve on the Herndon Youth Soccer Board of Directors. So I, signed up and was elected to the board to, and run our local soccer club. So these are other ways to sort of get involved into your community, and I've had the opportunity to do that. Just more opportunities to give back, but also to be enriched by those experiences and being able to be a part, of your community.
Yeah, we mentioned how important sports were for you growing up. So it's very cool that you're able to pay that forward and give that experience to others today. That's
And I
awesome.
really love that, because I got to, like I said, I got to play sports on the backs of the families, and so it's great that we're able to do that. And Herndon's kind of a unique spot because we have a very diverse community in Herndon, Virginia, and there's a lot of needs based activities there, and so we're proud of the fact that we come up with ways of supporting these kids, through sport.
Awesome. So, one last big kind of reflecting question for you. As you kind of think about your background and your path, and we've talked a lot about that today, and the unique path you've taken to success, what are some of the lessons or takeaways from your experiences what have they taught you today?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I guess I'd say a couple of things. I mean, one is, just having ambition can be a good thing. Having a desire to just be better. And to do what you can to grow is a good thing. So having that sort of growth mindset, I think is really important. And I think it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to experiment a little bit. It's okay to explore. At one point in my career where I was putting myself through school, I needed a job, and there was this place close to where I was living at the time, and they did like picture framing. And and they were, again, really close. Like I could walk there or ride my bike to it, and I came to them because I needed a job, to give me flexibility while I was trying to put myself through school. And I came in, they had a job opening. It was super convenient, close to where I was. And so I came in and I said, look, I don't know anything about this stuff, but I have a proposal for you, and give me 2 weeks and I will work for free for 2 weeks. So teach me how to do this, and at the end of 2 weeks, you can decide whether or not I'm good enough and I'll be effective, and you can offer me a job. And they looked at me like I was crazy. But they took some previous jobs, so it's not like I wasn't starting from scratch. I'd done other things. So I had a little bit of a resume, if you will, if you consider working at McDonald's helpful on your resume. But they took a chance on me, and so I took that job, and they taught me how to cut, the wood, how to deal with the staining. They taught me how to cut glass. That was kind of interesting, learn how to cut glass without breaking glass. Getting all that measuring stuff together, how to put them together and use the putty and get the colors right so that you don't see the nails. And so this was really kind of neat. And I did this for like 2 weeks, off and on while I was going to school. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, we have the meeting with the boss, and she says, hey, this has been great. We'd really like to offer you this job more permanently. And I said, thank you. That's awesome. No, thank you. I definitely do not want this job. So I fulfilled my commitment. But one of the things I learned is you got to work with colors. I'm left-brained engineer type. I don't know how to work with colors. So customers would come into the shop there in Reston, and they would say, hey, what goes well with this print? or I've got this portrait, or I've got this picture, or I've got this painting that I just bought at some art show, and help me figure out what goes well with it. And I just hated that because I was terrible at matching up these colors. They said, I can build your frame, I could cut your glass, I could do all this kind of stuff, but I suck at this whole color thing. So thank you for taking a chance on me. Sorry to waste your time. There's no way I could do this job for you. And so I left. But back to the story. So why was that important? Because of my upbringing, because of the things that I had to do early on in my life, it gave me more confidence. It gave me confidence to have a conversation, with somebody and to come up with a proposal as a way to try to get something done. And I'm pretty confident I would not have ever been able to do that if I hadn't had to sort of live on my own, if I had experienced things on my own, if I didn't have to grow up as early as I did. I would not have had that kind of confidence to do that. And I encourage everybody to just try. You have a hypothesis, you have something that is of interest to you, build a little proposal, be respectful, of course, be a little bit humble, but have a proposal, try. You might be surprised what people are willing to take a chance on, for you to give you an opportunity to accomplish something that's important to you, especially if you have commitment, if you have fortitude, if you've got energy, if you've got the right attitude, if you're have a good strong work ethic and to really put the put the time and talent and attention into it, it can happen. And I think people should just try more. And so I think that's one of the things that I've learned. And with the strength of my family supporting me, I feel like I could do anything. I could take on, any challenge. And I'd say maybe lastly, proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And so being prepared, know what you're going into, do your research, understand what's at risk and what the possibilities are. And if you could sort of see that possibility, you see a problem, you see a hole that needs to be filled, go fill it. And when you can do that, people will really value you and your contributions.
Awesome. I think it's truly our experiences and the good and the bad that, make us who we are. And it is certainly what you do with those experiences that I think is so valuable and worth sharing. So thank you for sharing those experiences of yours with us and how that kind of shaped you today and some great words of advice. This was a great note to end on. So thanks so much, JR.
Well, thank you, and I hope this isn't super boring to folks. A lot of people have had much tougher journeys in their life, and again, I'm very appreciative and privileged to have the choices and opportunities that I've had, and I'm very grateful to have arrived to whatever we've arrived to, and hopefully have opportunities continue to give back to the community that certainly supported me all this time. So thanks for your time today.
Like what you hear? Make sure to subscribe to Humble Beginnings on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and get notified when new episodes are released. Thanks for listening.